they're honing in on you. Why do you think that is? How do you respond to those attacks? That's not about policy. That's about you.
Listen, this is not new. There's nothing new about that. They feel the need to attack because they're scared that we will win based on the merit of the work that Joe Biden and I and our administration has done.
But even Democrats are worried about the president's age. The Wall Street Journal had a poll showing 2/3 of Democrats say Joe Biden is too old to run again. Are you prepared to be commander-in-chief?
Yes, I am, if necessary. But Joe Biden is going to be fine. And let me tell you something. I work with Joe Biden every day.
That's Vice President Kamala Harris pushing back criticisms surrounding Joe Biden's age and her readiness to step into commander-in-chief if necessary.
Oh, my God.
Welcome back to Morning Joe.
As the president's in India
and
keeping a schedule that the former
Vietnam.
president would absolutely
No, he didn't do it. He hated leaving.
Never do.
Hated leaving. Hated getting out in the rain, even in D-Day. I mean, the guy was just like, come on. The comparisons, please. It's September 11th. Jonathan Lemire, Katty K, Richard Haas, Reverend Al Sharpton are still with us. And let's bring you the conversation. The founder of the conservative website, The Bulwark, Charlie Sykes. We were going to talk about, going to have a lot of discussions and reflections on 9/11. We have a couple reporters here that were on the ground. Mika was, of course, and we talked about that a lot through the years. Also, Jonathan Lemire, a young 21-year-old kid at the Daily News down there on September 11th, checking the morgues and going from fire department to fire department. So we're going to get to that in a minute and talk a lot more about quite a few things. But Charlie Sykes, I want to talk, first of all, I want to talk about this Kamala Harris thing, because it's whispered all the time. It's whispered oh, Kamala Harris. She's so horrible. Kamala Harris. Nobody's going to vote for Joe Biden. Because first of all, let me say it again. Nobody in the history of America has ever voted for a presidential candidate because of a vice presidential candidate. It doesn't happen. That's one. Number two, Kamala Harris. Oh, they're being so mean to Kamala Harris. They're racist. She's a woman. They're scared of her because she's a black woman. They hate black women. They're scared of. Has anybody ever heard of Dan Quayle? Not black or a woman. That guy got raked over the coals unmercifully. Has anybody ever heard of George Herbert Walker Bush? That guy got destroyed. Why? Because he was a vice president. You remember the wimp factor? Like, that was his cover as vice president. The wimp factor. I mean, here's a guy that was a hero in World War II. Here's a guy that voted against racism in public housing when he was representing Texas. I mean, here was a courageous guy. The media mocked and ridiculed, raked him over the coals. He became president of the United States. So I'm just tired of hearing people say, oh, Kamala, it's because she's black and she's a woman and she's whatever and they're afraid. No, she's vice president. It's like there was a reason why Sam Rayburn told Lyndon Johnson it wasn't worth a warm bucket of spit because it's a miserable job. You're always getting mocked and ridiculed. And, you know.
They did a show called Veep.
Kamala keeps her head down. The vice president keeps her head down. And, I think she's doing okay for herself. But it doesn't mean people aren't going to continue ridiculing her until she's president of the United States. Then they'll go, oh, yeah, we always saw something in her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It goes with the territory. And by the way, I don't think it was a bucket of warm spit. I think he used a different word. History has cleaned that up a little bit. This goes with the territory. And of course, we all remembered Dan Quayle, or we ought to remember Dan Quayle. But this is going to be a central issue in the 2024 campaign. Republicans are going to make it. Nikki Haley has made it very, very clear that she's running basically against dead Joe Biden and live Kamala Harris, as offensive as that may sound. They're going to make her her the stand-in for all of this. And you're right. No one has ever voted for a vice president, but we're going to see a lot of unprecedented things next year. And look, for Joe Biden, there are three questions. I mean, has his record been good enough to warrant a second term? I think you could make a very strong case. Yes. Is he up for a re-election campaign? Big question mark. And then number three, what are the Democrats' plan B? Is it Kamala Harris? How would she be at the top of the ticket? Is she more electable or more vulnerable than Joe Biden? So we're going to have this debate. This basically is parallel to the debate about, whether or not Joe Biden is too old. Is he too old to be president? Is he too old to be a candidate? And what is the alternative? And that's why these questions are going to continue to be asked. And she's going to have to step up and prove that she can handle all of these questions on the biggest stage possible.
Well, and I mean that's her job. She's got to do it, Rev. And the fact is, everybody here, everybody that are friends at home or watching right here, we spend our days going around with people coming up to us, and please raise your hand if you're not one of these people, with people saying, is Joe Biden too old to run for president? It's all I hear all day from Republicans, from independents, from Democrats, from people in the DNC, from Democratic senators, from Democratic congressmen, from some people even in the Biden administration. It's all I hear all day. And if anybody here doesn't hear it all day, please raise your hand and we'll go to you. But Reverend Al, that's all I hear all day. I know it's all you hear all day, not from you telling me anything. I just know it's out there. I can't walk 5 feet without somebody going, is Joe Biden to run? What's going to happen? We don't want Trump to be president next. Is it really going to be Kamala? That's what's laid out before us right now. And it's Kamala. It's the vice president's, and I call it Kamala. I know her. I like her. We've known her for a long time. I'll call her the vice president. The vice president's got to prove. She's got to show that she's ready for the job. It doesn't matter if she's a black woman or a white man or a Hispanic man or woman. She's got to prove that she's ready for the job.
No doubt about it. But first of all, I think the Democrats, if I were advising them, and I'm not, should take these things on, head on. One, when people say to me, and you're right, people say it all day, is Joe Biden too old? How old was he when he passed the Inflation Reduction Act? How old was he when he passed the infrastructure bill? I mean, look at what he's gotten done at this age. So bring on the old guy that took us out of COVID against the guy that was telling us to take bleach. Bring that old guy on, because we have serious challenges. And in terms of Kamala Harris, who I know, and I've seen them work together. 2 weeks ago today, we were in the White House after the March on Washington, meeting with them together. Kamala Harris should not be underestimated. Who on the Republican side can make a better argument that they could be governing and be president if it came to that? And I don't think it will, because there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. But if it came to that, who could say that they could govern better than Kamala Harris? DeSantis? Nikki Haley? So, I mean, if you've got biases against a woman of color in Kamala Harris, Nikki Haley's a woman of color. Or what are we going to do? Oh, Vivek Ramaswamy, he's the guy we want to hand the country over to rather than Kamala Harris. I would take this head on, because the comparison won't stick when you do a head on size up.
So President Biden has been a little more forthcoming about his age, sort of trying to disarm it with humor. And aides certainly know that it is an issue. They can read polls, too. And as much as sometimes viewers at home don't want to hear it, that is a topic of conversation, not just in Washington, but around the country. And Caddy, so is, to Joe's point, the vice president. And I think that those in the West Wing privately admit the first few months, maybe the first year or so of her time in office, was filled with some missteps, a few political blunders. They weren't quite sure what they had there. They think, though, that she's found her voice here in the last 6 to 8 months or so, in particular about abortion, about the freedom to choose, about she has become their top spokesperson on that issue, much more effective, they believe, than the president himself. And she's also taken on some Republicans head on, like Governor DeSantis, about his efforts to burn books and reshape the education policies there in the state of Florida. What's your sense of it? Polls suggest she's still a drag on the ticket. Do you think that could change?
it's clear that the first year didn't go very well, and maybe the West Wing didn't help. I mean, they gave her immigration, which was a very difficult beat for her to have a success on the border. So that was not seen to go particularly well. She had staffing issues. There were a slew of bad, negative press reports about her and about her staffing issues and the fact that she wasn't doing well. And the White House was very preoccupied about that. I mean, I've had conversations, as you have, with people in the White House and the campaign who have talked a lot about how are they going to prepare Kamala Harris to be the person who can, step in for Joe Biden on the campaign trail. They really want to boost her numbers so that she can take off some of the weight of campaigning from Joe Biden and relieve him of some of the exhaustion of having to go around, as we know campaigns are, that she could do more of that. But they've got to get her poll numbers up better first, because otherwise she can't be an effective surrogate to him. But it's also true, I've spoken to Republicans and people on the Trump team who've basically said they're going to try and frame this as a race between, DeSantis-Harris or Trump-Harris. So far, it's only Nikki Haley who's doing it, perhaps because she's a woman. It's easier for her to be more critical of Kamala Harris at this stage in the campaign. But make no mistake, that's how Republicans are thinking. They still think that's an effective way for them to run, saying to the public, well, Joe Biden may be at the top of the ticket, but we don't expect him to last a whole presidency. And really what you're doing is voting for Kamala Harris. So I think the work is still there to be done. There has been a turnaround. She was being good on the abortion issue, and they've sent her around the country effectively on that issue.
That is her topic, where she's especially strong, and it's going to be an important one in the next election. That's already been proven in past elections.